WICR.
Welcome back, folks, for the second segment of the day of The Rock is On. This is your host, The Rock, and we're going to do a little things differently today. Usually when I talk about a sport, I stay onto it, but now this time, and then I'll announce the transition or the change. But you know what? We're going to go back to baseball later on in the show, and we're going to talk about football. And the first thing we're going to talk about in regards to the NFL and football is the New York Football Jets. And for those of you who saw the game on Sunday, whew, it was horrendous. Horrendous. Abysmal. Dreadful. Terrible. Just flat out bad. Because now in the game against the Chiefs, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't that confident. But I knew I thought the game was going to be close and it was going to come down to the wire, and it was a flip of a coin. Either it would be bounce in the Chiefs' favor or the Jets' favor. I don't know why I wasn't confident. You know when you watch a game or you go into a game, you feel good, and then some games you're like, I don't know. How does this, honestly, and what baffles me is that in week 2, on short rest, coming off a loss, the Jets' offense was just so phenomenal. It was phenomenal. They had nearly 500 total yards. Ryan Fitzpatrick had 374 yards, or nearly 400 yards. And they looked like the greatest show on turf. With those old Ram teams with Kurt Warner as the quarterback. But what I don't get is you have 10 days to prepare for the Kansas City Chiefs. How is it that you go from looking great offensively, playing out of your mind, to playing like absolute garbage? How? It's incomprehensible. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And as a team, the Jets throughout that game, they had 8 turnovers. And 6 of them were interceptions. INTs by Mr. Ryan Fitzpatrick. You know, the guy that held out and he wanted a max contract, but not the other 31 teams in the NFL didn't give it to him. The Jets were reluctant to give it to him because they knew. And you know what? Kudos to Mike Maccagnan. Because he knew. He said, you know what? And he knew. And he said, you know what? This guy had a great year. He had a great year. But can he do it again? Can he repeat the success he had last year? Can he do it again this year? And you know what? When you saw the game on Sunday, he couldn't. He looked like, that journeyman quarterback playing garbage time, throwing the ball all over the place, throwing it in tight coverage, getting picked off. Fitz, this is your year. If you want that max contract, this is the year. Whether you're getting it from the Jets or another team. And, it kind of makes you think, is he even worth his current contract that he got from the Jets, which was a 1 year, $12 million? $12 million for that garbage? Pfft, spare me. And it was frustrating, and what was even more frustrating with that game is that even though the Jets, as sloppy and as terrible as the Jets played, they still had an opportunity to win that game, or at least get back into the game. But you know what? When you have tip balls getting intercepted in the red zone, when you're within the 10-yard line, it's pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. And at times, it's a shame that I have to call this my favorite football team. You know what? As a Jet fan, I was embarrassed because of that game. Really was. You had Jalen Marshall fumbling on special teams, which was the second week in a row. He fumbled and he got returned for a touchdown because he did it in the Buffalo game. You know, when are these guys going to put it together? You know, the week one, it was the special teams, and the passing game was off. Week two, it was the defense. Even though they won, it was the defense. Now, week three, it was just sloppy play from the offense all around. Couldn't establish a running game. Couldn't get the passing game going. You know, Eric Decker and Brandon Marshall were no factors. I think they combined for like maybe 4 or 5 catches and wasn't even 100 yards. Or as a matter of fact, I don't think they even eclipsed 80 yards. And then, like I said, you have tip balls, getting intercepted, going. You're in the red zone, you know, and those were 2 easy scores. 2 easy scores right there. And what stuns me a little is that the Jets last year were a good red zone team. They were one of the top 5 teams in the league in the red zone when it comes to scoring touchdowns when you're in the red zone, opponent's 20-yard line, or you go deeper in. You know, now this year, it's like they can't even score a touchdown in the red zone. I don't know what gives. And if you watched the game on Sunday, and if you thought the Chiefs' defense was any good, the Jets have another tough task at hands, and they have to face the Legion of Boom and the Seattle Seahawks defense. Now, granted, it's at home, so you know what? They have somewhat an advantage. But you know what? When you throw in the fact that you have you have 2 banged up wide receivers. Jalen Marshall's out for a few weeks he has like a torn labrum. Then you have Eric Decker, who didn't practice today, and he's getting an MRI on his shoulder, though, because he's been dealing with shoulder pain or shoulder problems the last week or so. You're going to go in there limited. If you think about it this way, you're going to go in there limited at your wide receiver group against a phenomenal defense, or one of the best top 5 defenses in the league. And then against an elusive quarterback. Now, granted, Wilson has an MCL injury, but he is expected to start. And he can make some deep throws. He can get out of the pocket and can make some deep throws and extend the play. He's notorious for doing that. You know what? I don't want to say... I know it's only week 4, but in a way, this is kind of a barometer game for the Jets. It really is. Because think about this. If the Jets were to lose this game, they drop to 1-3. 1-3. And when you're 1-3 in the NFL, or you start off 1-3, already a quarter of the season's done, and you're already behind the 8 ball. Because then you got to look at it from this standpoint. If you start off 1-3, that means you got to go at least 3-1 just to be at 500, just to be 4-4. And then you know what? When you're 4-4, you're already halfway through the season, and that means you got to go 6-2 in the last half of the season, or the second half of the season, just to even have a chance, or solid chance, just to even make the playoffs. You have very room for error. That's what. And I want to see how the Jets are going to respond going into this game. You're playing a tough opponent. They're coming in your house. You know, they're one of the most feared teams in the league. They went to prior to last year, they went to 2 Super Bowls in a row, winning one of them. Should have won 2, but we all know what happened in the second one. I want to see how this Jet team's going to respond on Sunday when they play the Seahawks. And I also want to see if Mr. Todd Bowles is going to make any in-game adjustments. Because from what I'm seeing the last year or so, he hasn't been making any in-game adjustments. You know, certain players are getting beat on certain plays, not going into halftime, and it's like this. You figure, hey, you know what? The Jets are going to make their corrections. They're going to do what's needed to win the game. They'll be in better shape. And you know what? They keep doing it. They don't do anything about it. And then it's like the offensive plays. You know, like you run back-to-back shovel passes when you're in the red zone. No, you run shovel passes if you're deep in your own territory, so that way you give your punter some room so he can punt. Because the chances, and if it's a long third down, that's when you run a shovel pass. You don't run a shovel pass deep in your own deep in the red zone. You got to go for the end zone. That's been a tendency with Todd Bowles. He's not making any in-game adjustments, both defensively or offensively. So I want to know, is he going to do it come this game? Are the Jets going to be poised? Or are they going to lay down and die and wave the white flag and be intimidated by that Seahawks secondary? You just hope. That's all I can say. And that concludes this segment of The Rock is On.